Let's talk about some recruiting visitors coming in. Jake Roos, big list, and it just keeps getting bigger every day, man.
Yeah, it really does. And it's really going to be, in my estimation, I think it's going to be the biggest weekend of the year. Ole Miss might rival it. They might have a chance. But, Jake Rowe and I were talking about this, and he made a great point. Georgia's got a good draw here, man. There's not a lot of other games that guys necessarily might go to. Tennessee, Florida, maybe. You could get away with that one pointing toward. But you're not going up against Texas and Alabama, is what I would say, and that's very advantageous for Georgia and this visitor list. A lot of the usual suspects will be back through. Raiola will be in town. A lot of the commits. Nate Frazier's coming into town. That means he's bringing Aiden Breland with him, and Aiden Breland, 5-star defensive lineman, just dropped his top 3 this evening. Georgia in the mix there, and I think this is a really good sign that they're there. Oh, and this guy I didn't even mention, but conveniently his photo shows up, because why wouldn't it? KJ Bolden back in town. Yeah, that's a huge one, man. I mean, listen, I dropped kind of our midweek thoughts on what's going on this weekend. I'm not telling you that I think KJ Bolden's going to flip. I don't. But Georgia's just going to have another chance to impress him. And Georgia hasn't given up there, and they're going to continue to push. So it's a good sign no matter really how you slice it. Somebody suggested that he would come in and recruit for FSU. Everything I've ever known about KJ Bolden would not really point toward that direction. I just don't think he's that kind of guy. I think he's a respectful kid, and I think he'll be there on his own accord and having fun with a bunch of guys that he knows in this process. So to me, what's also really crazy about this list is the underclassmen. Zayden Walker, Amari Adams, you've got Zealous Hicks coming in, Tyler Atkinson's a 2026 guy, Aaron Gregory. A lot of underclassmen in this. And Georgia, there's a little bit of fruit left on the vine when it comes to 2024, but there ain't much, man. I mean, Breland, McCray, maybe a safety prospect, maybe look toward another edge guy, a pass catcher. So you're talking about 5-6 guys total probably that they're chasing around. You go out and look at, these next classes, though, and Georgia's in good position for a lot of these guys and has the opportunity to impress them this weekend. So, I think the Dogs are in a really strong spot when it comes to this visitor list. I think it's a who's who. And like I said, it has a real shot to be the biggest of the year. I'd be kind of surprised if it wasn't. So, Dylan Brooks over here getting real excited about Aiden Breland, and rightfully so, man. I got to tell you, that was one I thought LJ McCray was probably the guy that I would have penciled in probably a month and a half back. I think the smoke around Breland is really building quickly, and he's a guy that it would not shock me to see him in this class. I'm not putting in the prediction just yet, but I think that things are trending a lot harder Georgia than they were before. So I'm looking forward to that visit, looking forward to what we hear after that visit, especially because I think this will be a big, impactful one for him. And you got to think modern day does not have a lot of buys through this year. So very fortuitous they get him on campus this weekend in this environment with these people. I think that this is all to Georgia's benefit. So
Roos, I got a question for you on KJ before we go all in on Aiden Breland here. The fact that he's taking his Auburn official visit, and I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but it's for that Georgia game here in a couple of weeks. What does that say to you about how open this recruitment still is? Obviously, he's taken his Georgia official. That's the only one that I think he's got left of the schools that he kind of considered there as finalists. But what does that say to you about how open this recruitment is or isn't?
I hesitate to read too much into it. I mean, the kid's committed, man. He's taking an official visit while he's committed somewhere else. Yeah, I can see what you're getting at. I mean, there's reason to scratch your head about it for sure. But simultaneously, man, I think KJ has been pretty clear in the FSU stuff, man. So, he's going to have a chance. Listen, nobody's telling him no. That's what I'll say at the end of the day, right? I mean, he's going to, if he wants to come, he's going to have that opportunity. I promise you, the the Dogs or anybody else are not going to turn away KJ Bolden. I don't know that it's super what I would call open, but it's still interesting. And what I wrote today, and I think is the case, is that him coming to Athens this weekend means that Florida State at least has to just stay on guard. That's the big thing for me, is like, you got to keep them on guard and let them know that they're just not walking away with this thing. I don't know that they land them or anything like that, but I think that, and like I said, I probably wouldn't pick that today. There's no way to slice it in my mind. That's a bad sign for Georgia that he's coming back this weekend.
Christopher Black answering your question there in the comments. His dad, KJ's dad, is not Anquan Bolden that played at Florida State, wide receiver that went on to.
No, that would be badass though.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Anquan Bolden was incredible. Huge Anquan Bolden fan. But no, KJ went with FSU. He grew up idolizing Dion. Jalen Ramsey. He's been close with Mike Norvell for several years. I believe FSU was his first offer, if I'm not mistaken, and that was a while ago. So, there's a lot of ties there, and it wasn't a huge shock that they won out. We still thought it was going to be Georgia, but in the end, that he would choose FSU. It wasn't like Travis Hunter choosing Jackson State. It wasn't that level of surprise.
There will never be another one of those because Travis Hunter was the first one to do it, and now you kind of have to expect everything with Dion or anybody. All right, so we got Breland covered there, and if you want to see the full list of visitors, you can check out DawgsHQ.com. It is premium stuff. You can try us out for $1 for 1 month and see what it's all about. And this is a great time to try it out because this kind of info heading into this kind of game weekend is about as big as it gets, guys. Speaking of Breland, let's dive in a little bit deeper and then get to a couple big decommitments on the Dogs' radar before we take this thing home. What will it take for the Dogs to not be Breland's pick? Who are their biggest threats right now, Jake?
Well, he's down to 3. It's Miami and Oregon out there as well. I think with Oregon, you've got to fight the West Coast. I mean, it's just the ability to stay close to home. They've done a great job recruiting him. Dan Lanning has really prioritized this kid, and rightfully so, man. I mean, he's a difference maker for sure. He's a rare guy in a frame. And then Miami has seemingly kind of just been involved with everybody for whatever reason you might choose. I know a lot of people would probably point to NIL as what's keeping them in the race for a lot of people. But they showed some marked improvement against Texas A&M. Guys know Cristobal from his time at Oregon. So there's a lot of familiarity there as well. So I think ultimately Georgia just has to continue to pitch this kid because what I continue to see in his comments is the development aspect. To me, that's what it is. He talks about, Georgia and the success and, being around guys who, if you're around nine successful people, you'll be the 10th one. It's really, there's some compelling stuff he's saying in Georgia's favor. And I think that it matters that he has a teammate committed. I don't think it's an ultimate decider, but I think that it gives him a level of familiarity, of comfort with the Dogs as well. So, like I said, man, I don't know that I would go ahead and slam the pick today, but I'm probably not too far off, especially if coming off this weekend, we hear what I expect that we will, which is that I think things will probably go pretty well. They'll prioritize this kid very heavily, as they rightfully should. And I think Georgia could be, in the catbird seat by this time next week. That's a bit of a hot take from me, but I don't think everything is trending in the right direction in my eyes when it comes to Aiden Breland in Georgia.
D-line U. Speaking of D-lineman, big one decommitted from the Florida Gators. Michael, is it Borio or Boro?
I've heard several pronunciations.
Okay.
It's Makai Burrow is what Rusty said. So I'm just going to go with what Rusty said.
All right. Yeah.
he's the guy in charge here. So if he's wrong, then that's
how it sounds.
That's marching orders is what I'm going by. So, yeah, that was a big decommitment. Georgia really likes that kid and did going into his decision. It was a bit of a surprise that he chose Florida. Now he's backed off of that. Said Georgia never stopped recruiting him. And, oh, yeah, now the Dogs are number one. So he's visiting this weekend. You got to assume that's in Georgia's favor as well. Again, it's like Breland, man, a rare frame on this guy. Big cat. 6'5", 350. Jeremy said He said he's probably carrying more like 360, 370-ish. But he looks good carrying it. I mean, it's not sloppy weight. Georgia will trim him up, but I think that the Dogs would be a safe bet at this moment. And it's like I say, man, get as many of these guys in. I don't care what you have to do. Figure out the spots. Let God sort them out when they get to Athens, because these people do not grow on trees, my friends. 6'5", 350 is not walking around Hardee's all the time. All right. These guys are freak athletes in the way they move and their size. And I think that, Burrow is one of those guys. So I think it's, all signs are pointing Georgia right now. I don't know if he's in any rush. It doesn't seem like that's the case, but some great stuff from Jeremy Johnson over at DawgsHQ. Go check all that out. He had a chance to catch up with the kid face-to-face over at Creekside, and his comments I thought were pretty telling. So, yeah.
All right, and then finally, Jalen Matthews here, just decommitted from Penn State. If Kirby Smart flips another guy from James Franklin, he's probably going to have to hang it up. I mean, that's just abuse.
James Franklin is not sending a Christmas card to the Smarts this year. I promise. It's not. I mean, somebody asked, what's going on with this? Like, is there some sort of vendetta? My theory on it is that Penn State's just really good, has a really good eye for talent. They're good talent evaluators. I think Georgia respects it. And I also think that they feel comfortable moving in on their players. I mean, it's like, thanks for all the legwork for pointing us toward this guy. He's great. And now we'll take him from you.
Athens or Happy Valley? Which one you want?
Yeah. And it was Joshua Miller and Yazid Haynes, right? Were the two that we're talking about. Those are also two Northeast guys. I mean, Pennsylvania, for Haynes and
Haynes was from the state. I mean, when they told him
and Virginia for Josh Miller. So, it makes sense that Penn State is ahead of the game there in terms of recruiting those guys. Just like Georgia is ahead of the game and getting in with a lot of the, I'll say South Georgia guys, because I think Metro Atlanta is just, such a populated area that all of these teams are getting in there with those guys early. But, Georgia is evaluating, Cedartown super well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, though, this kid, you see he's from Palmer's neck of the woods there, Tom's River. But now it's that NJ at the end, man. That's what matters in this recruitment is the New Jersey, right? Nair Daniels coming out of New Jersey this year. Jalen Matthews in 2025 out of New Jersey. Who's from New Jersey? The guy that I talk about all the time. It's Fran Brown. And the guy's just doing work, man, just chopping it up.
Jordan Thomas, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, out of Don Bosco. So get over to the dog walk. Matt Godwin was over there dropping a little bit of knowledge and said, Fran's the best I've ever seen. That's strong words, my friend. He worked around some really good ones. Fran's a machine, man. And Georgia getting up there and bringing guys like, Jordan Thomas, like Yazid Haynes, Josh Miller, those guys are impactful players. Nair Daniels is going to be a great one. If they're able to go up and get that kid, this kid right here, that would be just another big feather in the cap. 6'6", 273, number 83 in the nation, a little higher on the On3 rankings. It's what you build them for, man. It's the kind of frame you're looking for all the time. Georgia would love to add this kid. Looks like they got a real shot to do it.
Insane
Big,
that the
mean
number,
boys. Go ahead, Palmer.
insane that the number 11 offensive tackle is the number 83 overall player in the country.
Yeah, it's a deep class, and that's what's crazy too. Is Georgia is involved with the number 1 offensive tackle, David Sanders, the number 2 offensive tackle, who I believe is Josh Petty.
Nope, Micah DeBow, who's committed.
Oh, who is committed? Petty's 3.
Petty's down to 5.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
At least in the industry ranking.
Okay.
You're right. Petty is 2 according to On3.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I knew he was up there somewhere. So, yeah, Georgia heavily involved. Listen, we'll cage that by saying Micah DeBose is from Alabama. Okay, I don't feel good about it. Right? I just don't think they're going to be able to hold on to it. It is what it is at this point. But I mean, look, you got the kid on there, and we'll see, man. But this kid right now, all signs pointing toward Georgia for Jalen Matthews, and that would be huge.
This Fran Brown pipeline, just getting you some big, mean dudes out of New Jersey, New York. I mean, I know they're not from the South, but they come down here and they know how to eat. They figure out how to eat down here in Georgia, and they just got that mean streak, man. I don't know what it is. That Yankee mean streak.
They got that dog in them.
I almost said corn-fed, but I don't think that people in New Jersey eat a lot of corn. Maybe they're like pasta fed or something.
Yeah, no, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Gabagool fed.
Yeah, right.